Welcome to this edition of the Boob Tube Buddies podcast, featuring our discussion of the HBO show Westworld, episode 9, entitled The Well-Tempered Clavier. My name is Foxman, and I'm joined by the Charlie to my Bernard. What up, son?
Not a whole lot, man. I love how you just butchered that name.
Well, what's really funny is I asked you how to pronounce it, and then I mispronounced well-tempered.
Yeah, and I was actually going to make fun of you because it's pronounced clavier or clavier. Oh,
cool. Thanks for giving me the wrong one.
You know it.
Which didn't even matter because I butchered the one before it.
That's not what I was expecting. So do you know what that is?
A musical term?
Well, yeah, tempered is basically a tuning. But then clavier is like a string. It's basically like keyboards and harpsichords. But
yeah, I was first chair clavier player.
Nice. But in the 70s, they were trying to create a like electronic guitar emulation. Maybe it was in the 60s. And it just didn't turn out that way. But instead it sounded like...
Oh, the guitar. I gotcha. Keep going.
Yeah, but it sounded like a cool little keyboard. So that became the clavi. And that's all over like funk records and stuff. I even use it on the Luke Cage theme.
Oh,
yeah, a lot of
is
Luke
that
Cage.
What?
Yes,
is that what?
It's going wow,
Cottonmouth?
Wow, wow, wow. No, he's playing a Rhodes.
Oh, okay. And what's a theremin?
A theremin is you don't actually touch anything. It's pretty crazy, but that's the sci-fi sound. Yeah, that's the theremin.
Very cool, man. All right.
Anyway, music lesson over.
Yes, a couple of quick bits of information before we get into it. You can check out all of our content at www.boobtubebuddies.com. You can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, and Reddit, or just the old-fashioned way, email us at boobtubebuddies@gmail.com. And we will make sure your questions and theories get on the air. As Mothman likes to joke, we'll probably freaking interview you because that's what we like to do. So what do you want to break down real quick before we get started? Probably just the other shows we're doing, right?
Yes, indeedy. So we are one episode away from this being done, which is fucking crazy. But we're also doing Walking Dead, which will hit its mid-season finale, but then it comes back in March. The Boob Tube Buddies have just started on Gilmore Girls, and they also just finished American Horror Story. And Luke Cage, we just wrapped up. So if you haven't watched that yet, you can binge it and then also, speed listen, to all that stuff.
And Fantastic Breasts and Where to Find Them.
Yes, fantastic beats and where to drop them. Anyway, yeah, fantastic. We don't have the best time spelling beasts.
Okay, there you go. The reason why we are saying that is because I was making fun of him for posting up that episode, Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, because he had put Fantastic Beats and Where to Find Them.
Which I'd made the typo prior in our conversation.
Yes, you did. And
yeah.
I went on there and fixed it and then checked it on my phone during my lunch break to listen to it. And for about 2 hours, it said Fantastic Breasts and Where to Find Them.
We also did Doctor Strange. So if you're looking for movie podcasts, we have 2 recent ones. We'll also probably do Rogue One pretty soon here.
I'm sorry, probably what?
Rogue One.
Probably
I want to say Rogue Ward, yeah. And then Ash vs. Evil Dead. And who knows what we'll do next year, but there's plenty of good TV. So tons and tons of content. We're actually coming up on our 100th show, unless this is it. I didn't check.
No, this will be our 98th, Walking Dead 99, and I think the Boob Tube Buddies get the honor with their episode 1 of Gilmore Girls.
Fuck that. We should delete the BoJack episodes so we get it.
Damn, that is petty.
Right? Oh, Jesus.
God damn, Richard Petty over here.
Anyway.
All right, so you want to hop into the episode here, Mothman?
Isn't it Tom Petty?
I mean, Richard Petty is a NASCAR driver, I think.
Yeah, it's just lowbrow reference, NASCAR.
You know what, Mothman? Don't do me like that. Don't do me like that.
All right, well, rest assured, we have a whole goddamn lot to talk about. And you did mention the whole interview thing. I would like to, once again, just thank Ryan for being on the show 2 weeks ago, because he was right, which we'll get to much later.
Oh, yeah, he busted that shit open like so many soft zombie craniums on Walking Dead.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter how many fucking pictures people posted of varying, complexions of people's hands, he was still right.
Oh, that joke is for a very small subsect of our listenership. All right, so
Anyway, yeah, okay.
so we're gonna hop into Maeve's plot line here first. So it starts off, Maeve and Bernard talking in the laboratory, and man, she instantly sees through him as being a host.
Yeah, I mean, she's like, "You're one of us," and he's excuse me, because he's programmed not to think that way already,
Yeah.
Even though he's already realized he's kind of been reprogrammed, so he's not immediately open to it. But the crazy thing is she can fucking control him.
Yes, and well, I just love he's looking through her charts, and he gets to the attribute chart, and you can just see his face. He's like, "Whoa, dude, what's going on here?"
Yeah, who made these adjustments? I do like too, because we've seen plenty of the different hosts, on the slab getting talked to essentially. And I just like that she looks out of the corner of her eye up at him as he walks by. Cause that alone,
was funny.
Yeah, that alone is just a very human, moment, which we haven't seen from the host before. So I thought they did a really good job kind of conveying that.
Yes, and the turning of the tables scene is great here when she freezes his motor functions and basically just tells him you're gonna clear me to go back to the park, which he does. And when he walks out of there, is everything he can do to suppress the panic attack that's coming on.
Yeah, he's like, I don't know what the fuck to do. So
not the best episode for Bernard. I feel like the dude needs a fucking Xanax after tonight.
Yeah, but I don't think it'll help because they straight up delete his memories time and time again, and he still can't catch a break.
Oh, so Xanax and liquor?
Yes. Combo.
Not bad. All right, so let's see. Okay. So then we see Armistice and Hector with their group post heist out camping in the woods, and he goes to take a Nintendo Wii in the woods, and Maeve comes over, makes a funny little tiny wiener joke. Mm-hmm. Chilly out here, darling.
Yeah, and then she's basically like, I know about your past and your future. She has him at gunpoint with a shotgun, and he's just like, what the fuck? I don't, because he doesn't recognize or know her at this point because he's just in a new loop that hasn't really come into play. And
well, I think he does recognize her at the very least as the woman from the Mariposa,
Possibly, if she was there that round, she may have been pulled out. But either way, he isn't.
Well, he was here. We don't know how long she was gone. I guess, to be fair.
Yeah, so you're not sure where the loop is, but there's not this immediately what are you doing here type thing. There's only later some familiarity when he says we've done this before, but you're almost starting to think that's his first reverie coming to fruition. But either way, she starts to basically tell him the story that's happening. As he's peeing, she's like, yeah, your men over there are going to get in a fight. They're going to shoot each other. Then Armistice is going to shoot you. And he's like, what the fuck are you talking about? She's even going to say, you damn fool. And sure enough, he walks back over, and that's exactly
and all of it
what
comes
plays out.
Yes, but she obviously interrupts, kills Armistice, and she's like, okay, I'll show you what's in the safe, basically, but you're not gonna like it. And so she sits up on the safe like she had done that one time when he was at the Mariposa.
Yeah, before the safe was pulled out. Yeah.
Yeah, and then she puts the knife up to her stomach, and that's when he really gets the deja vu. Mm-hmm. And so they start going at it in the tent, and she basically says a lot of cool lines right here about wanting to go to hell and rob the gods blind, which is just a cool line. Mm-hmm. And she burns that fucking tent to the ground with them inside of it having sex.
Yeah, I also just thought it was cool that, I didn't know what was going to be in the safe. Just being that there's this maze and these kind of hidden levels and other complexities to the world. You don't know if it's going to be, I don't know, almost like a Pulp Fiction moment, like this shining, what could it possibly be? But I thought it was just a stroke of genius to have it just be empty and be like, no, the loop you're in is nothingness. It's just vapid. There's much more to life, even as us hosts know it, and I'm going to kind of show the way.
Can I just say, missed opportunity to have a piano song right here with Kings of Leon, Sex on Fire? Am I right?
Yeah, that would have been pretty good.
Or at the very least, we could have got maybe Sir Psycho Sexy from the Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Maybe.
Have you never heard that song? Oh, you're not a Chili Peppers fan.
No, I've heard it. I like that album. It might be hard to do that like Anthony Kiedis melody on piano.
Like a ram getting ready to okay, yeah.
Right. Oh man. Anyway, so yeah, Maeve, not a whole lot this episode. But she was a pretty big focal point last episode. And let's face it, there's a lot more interesting things going on. So now, we're kind of gonna get into the Man in Black plot, which I thought was pretty cool.
And also a pretty short one. So we're kind of stacking all these up because we want to finish off with the main driving plot lines from this story, which were predominantly Bernard, Ford, and then to just a slightly lesser extent, William, Logan, and Dolores. So, okay, so Teddy wakes up. He's still got the arrow in his shoulder. Tallulah Riley, who is more than just Elon Musk's ex-wife, is standing over him. And the Man in Black is like... way to go, Teddy, you piece of shit. Your memory glitch totally fucked us.
Yeah, he's not happy with Teddy. And she grabs the Man in Black's knife and just walks over to Teddy. She, says White hasn't returned yet, but you'll find him in Escalante. And Teddy's just having these flashes of him slaughtering all these people. And it's what we've seen before, like him and Wyatt, and they're in kind of I don't know if it's Confederate, but kind of that type of outfit. What I didn't get, and maybe you can explain, is why is it switched from that to him killing people as a sheriff?
I don't know. Maybe like multiple different turns within the same loop. I didn't catch the outfit change, to be honest.
Well, because that's when he actually seems like really upset, because he remembers it and he's referenced it, and it's one thing, but then there's a point where you see Teddy in a sheriff's outfit with a badge, not as a soldier, just killing innocent civilians, one of which he looks at, like there's this woman, screaming, and then like he just has this look on his face. So I don't know what they're trying to imply, other than the fact that maybe Teddy continues to be more and more aware of the different lives he's led. Maybe that's all it was.
Yeah, and can I just say that it really seems like Tallulah Riley's character, like, is she fully sentient? Because she seems to first off know that Teddy will come back after she kills him here in a second. And she knows all about what happened in Escatone and past lives of her own. So, like, it makes you wonder, like, are all the early hosts, like the ones that Arnold specifically was a part of building, are they all starting to come to sentience at the same time? And
I'm pretty sure, because don't we see Tallulah Riley in the church later?
Yes, yeah, we see her.
And that's all of that's all the robots basically shaking and quivering that Arnold's been talking to. So I think.
Well, and she is a host that is aware that she is a host when she's talking to William in the beginning too.
It's true, yeah. So I think they're all having a come to Jesus moment at the same time in varying degrees, but it's come to Arnold.
Sure. So what do you think about this then? So like Ford says to Bernard later on about how we've had this struggle over and over again. So basically saying like he and Bernard have had this exact same thing. So like, does it kind of make you wonder if not only is he wiping out Bernard's sentience every few years, but like maybe he is doing that to other hosts too? Like he's kind of aware that a lot of them are coming online. In fact, maybe even his new narrative is the host gaining sentience, and that's like their quest to get out of the park kind of, and maybe it's all just being masterminded by him and it all amounts to absolute jack shit.
To an extent, yeah. That's one thing I was kind of pondering that would be very meta. And then, I read someone else online kind of having similar theories, but I don't know if they would do this. It might be way too meta and jump the shark, especially for a first season. But it very much could be that, what's his name? Ford's like big fancy new story that he's been working towards. Because let's face it, everything we've seen about it isn't that exciting. Like it's just, more cowboys and gunfights. Could it be that his new storyline is Westworld, the TV show?
Oh, like an Ed TV or a Truman Show type thing?
No, I don't mean like an actual TV show that people are watching, but I'm saying everything that we see happen is basically engineered by him because of the host he has planted, and he's just basically trying to become God. He's trying to continually affect things and bring it outside of Westworld to where it's actually impacting guests, board members, everything else. And essentially, we're just bird's eye view of what his grand story is, that otherwise he's the only person that can actually watch it. Like us watching the show, the only difference is we actually see Ford in the third person, but it's really how he's making things work.
I kind of don't exactly see what you're saying there.
Well, I don't know how to better explain it. Ultimately, he seems to have a hand in everything. He seems to replace people. He seems to deal with this regularly and kind of know that they're going to become sentient, how to deal with it, and continue to deal with it. So I think he's just ultimately trying to play God, which he's implied in the past, including what's happening with William, including what's happening with Logan, including what's happening with the Man in Black. I'm saying, as someone that has eyes everywhere, all of this is his plot, not just what the hosts are doing.
Oh, yeah, that's definitely exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah, so Westworld, the TV show, what we're watching is his big new act. All these plot points that are happening, none of them are a surprise to him. It's exactly what he's trying to make happen.
Okay, now I see what you're saying. Like, he is literally, everything that we're watching is controlled by him.
Yes, and even the stuff that's seemingly not, because it's, a human, it's all just how he thought it would play out based on the things.
What about the moment where the dog got killed? He seemed genuinely surprised by that.
I don't even remember a moment when the dog got killed.
Okay, so his childhood dog basically gets killed. Remember, because he has childhood Fordbot, and he's walking with him, and childhood Fordbot tells him about the dog dying, lies to him actually about the dog dying. He goes and sees the dog dead and looks genuinely a little taken aback by it. It's really the first and only time we've seen him in the show not look completely in control and in the know.
That's a good point. I mean, maybe that's one of the only moments, other than maybe what will happen in the finale, that Ford doesn't have control over. I mean, maybe the big reveal in the season finale is what we're saying is mostly right, but there are things, not Bernard, not like the big kind of twist endings for the audience. That stuff Ford, knew and was anticipating all along, but it's these smaller things he's not planning for, to where it's going to get out of control and out of his hands, and he, maybe doesn't know how to handle it, and he's not God at that point.
Okay. All right. Well, enough with the wide-ranging conversations, although it definitely seems like we're pretty much on the same page with that. But so she basically, Tallulah Riley's character, who, God damn it, I cannot remember her name for the life of me and did not write it down, but she ends up killing Teddy, by the way, with the Man in Black's knife, which looks super similar to the knife that William has, let me just say. And so she's like, the maze isn't for you, but you like games? How about trying one of ours? And then she knocks him out, and he wakes up in a really sweet little mousetrap with the noose around his neck, looped up over the tree, and tied to a horse. And you can definitely tell there's a moment there where he feels a little bit like, oh shit, oh man.
Yeah, because this is the harder difficulty level, and although he may not be at a place where the host will actually hurt him directly, like they may not be able to cut his throat and actually kill him, well, why couldn't they rig something like this where, well, they didn't kill him, like it was just chance. So you're seeing in like an ever so slight way the difficulty raise up, but he's able to grab the knife and cut himself free before getting, hanged. And at which point, then an interesting, not so much reveal. I mean, to an extent it is, but more than anything, confirmation about all these other things we've been thinking. The board member shows up. What's her name? Hale?
Charlotte Hale, yeah.
And immediately is talking to him. He's obviously on the board at this point. He's just here having fun playing his game. She wants his vote essentially to oust Ford, at which point he's like, oh, yeah, that's fine. I'm not after Ford's games anyway. It's all Arnold's. Whereas there's probably a point in time where he was opposed to it. And now that he's realized the deeper games that he's interested in aren't Ford's to begin with, he's like, fine, but just leave me alone so I can keep playing this and stop interfering with me.
And it was interesting with Teresa that Charlotte Hale points out that Teresa died and it was an accident. And he says, there are no accidents here. Like, he immediately basically gets like that there had to have been some sort of collusion or something was orchestrated. But he doesn't care. He didn't give a shit.
No, he didn't give a shit either way, but he's also not like, curious. Or what a shame. Like, he's like, whatever.
He's like, fine, no more interruptions. I know where I'm going and I don't want to be disturbed. Bye, Charlotte.
Yeah, exactly. Bye, Felicia.
All right, so we have one scene set aside here that's Stubbs. So let's just like run through this one quickly because it doesn't seem to directly impact anything else. But he's at the control center and he's told about Elsie's tablet being found in this sector. So he goes out to take a look by himself. Not a good idea. But seriously, though, like, why is there a team in the first episode that goes down to cold storage? Like, this whole heavily armed team in, the Mesa headquarters, but he can't have one goddamn escort come with him when he goes out into the park. Same thing when he went out with Elsie, and that one dude smashes his head in.
Yeah, I mean, I think we talked about this in the past. It's not... it doesn't make the most sense, but wasn't the idea... when they went to cold storage, is that just a robot went sentient on its own, whereas this is, like someone's iPad was dropped and they're like, oh, we've been looking for Elsie, maybe we should check it out.
I mean, absolutely. I'm not saying that one is necessarily comparable to the other, but he talks so often in the earlier episodes about how you have to be ready. Like he sleeps with his gun, basically. And yet this is a guy who just goes wandering off by himself all the time in the park. That's just like... I don't know. It doesn't necessarily ring true with what he was saying in the earlier episodes. Yeah,
I will say the first time when they went out and the guy smashed his head, I wasn't like, well, whatever, it's insane they would go out alone, because they didn't. It was two of them. They're skilled. But for him to go out completely alone, especially in context of what happened last time they went out, and that thing seemed fairly unhinged and dangerous, and luckily it killed itself, not one of them, I would agree that it wasn't the best idea to go out and then get abducted by the Ghost Nation.
Yes, and that's exactly what happens. They don't respond to his motor function commands at all. He draws his gun, but as he's looking at the ones in front of him, it's like this very other Michael Crichton movie, Jurassic Park sort of moment, like with the raptors. I just wanted him to look over at the very last second and go, clever girl.
The one gets him from behind, yeah.
And the Ghost Nation guy's like, I am not a girl.
One thing that's interesting to me from earlier, how Maeve can control them.
Yeah.
I just wonder obviously you can just explain it as a line of code, but I wonder what it is that a level 20 robot can control another robot, yet, a human can't. Is it, because it's obviously not the phrases. At first I was just thinking they know the key phrases, and they would just remove these phrases from the vocabulary of the robots, but they're saying the key phrases and it's just not working. So, like, what is it that actually makes it happen?
I think that there are actually key phrases. Where does that not add up for you?
Well, he's saying freeze motor skills. That should turn them off.
Obviously that command has been turned off in these hosts.
So you're saying there's just a separate phrase that he wouldn't know that works on him?
Yeah, backdoor codes. We've heard about it in almost every episode with Ford. But sometimes it's the piano or like a different song. Sometimes it's different other functions. Like, for example, in this one, what he uses on Bernard.
So what does Maeve say to Bernard?
I don't recall. I mean, I don't remember the line for line.
But I think she uses the freeze word. And I guess that's the big thing, is that so many of them are done just by saying freeze, but then they just kind of sporadically don't work. And then do you recall what Ford says to Clementine? I think he just says, that's enough, Clementine.
Something like that. But also we've seen, and I still have no idea why nobody's talking about it, Ford's eyes flash in multiple episodes when he's talking to the hosts. And it's like this very subtle, definitely like he's wearing like a contact or something like that is used to control them by, I don't know if it's like his brain waves or if it's like by blinking or what.
And that's kind of what I'm getting at, is if the level 20 robot's able to do it, maybe at this point, and we don't know, obviously, that's what Ford is. And it's not really the phrases that are being said. It's literally like, I don't know, like a TV remote. It's like Bluetooth or infrared. There's something more going on in conjunction to the phrases, which is why...
For him, definitely. But I think that there are backdoor codes that maybe Maeve somehow I mean, we don't know what her vision of things looks like. She might look at these guys and literally see lines of code. I mean, she recognizes, Bernard right away, and that might just be by some subtle ticks or something like that. But she knows definitely at this point, no matter how seasoned Stubbs is, she knows the code, and he does not, I don't think, know the code in and out like she would at this point.
I guess we will find out.
Sure. Okay, so before we get to the big plot lines here, which is William, Dolores, and Logan, and then also Bernard and Ford, let's cut to a quick ad. But actually, first, I wanted to point out something. Last week, we had a huge boost in numbers from Senegal, and I was super excited about it. I even looked up the name of the city, Dakar, and I was all excited. Mothman slightly burst my bubble and said that he had a sinking suspicion that it was just some bots, and I said, no way, man. And well, number one super fan,
Brookie Shy.
Yeah, Brookie Shy.
That's why I call him, because Team Mothman were close.
Hashtag Team Mothman. Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. He tweeted at us after the episode and thought that part was funny and put a hashtag Senegal, and not 1 minute later, that was retweeted by @SenegalBot, which is just the funniest goddamn thing I've seen in my entire life.
Oh god, it's so good, because it's not like it was just a clear Senegal bot retweeting and not called like just the fact that the name was so on the nose. It's not even trying to hide the fact that it's a bot for the Senegal.
Yeah. So I was really bummed about that. I mean, like, definitely ruined my Thanksgiving and just absolutely destroyed. But what was worse is our numbers last week. Well, here, I'll tell you what, I was depressed about it, and I had to have some sort of conduit to let out my frustration. So I wrote a little ditty. Mothman, will you drop the needle on this bitch?
You know it.
Senegal bot, where did you go? I do not know, I miss you a lot. Senegal bot, where'd you go? You abandoned us, we needed you. Last week our numbers were shit. You left us alone with the United States, United Kingdoms, and Canada.
Hey there, little buddies. Mothman here. This may be the last Audible ad I ever get to do. I made a terrible mistake, and I'm afraid I can never take it back. I listened to the Necronomicon by H.P. Lovecraft on Audible. I just wanted a few scares. I just wanted to have a good time, but instead, I unleashed something terrible and beyond the realm of human comprehension. I don't know how much longer I can hold on to my sanity. It seems as if there's only a thread left. Please, tell my family I love them, and whatever you do, for the love of all reality as we know it, do not go to audibletrial.com/Boob Tube Buddies and try it free for 30 days, or you too might come across this terrible book and lose all that you hold dear. I can't even bring myself to say my catchphrase because I just don't know if I'll see you next time, little buddies.
And we're back. So that is a prime example of when you wake up the next morning and you realize how fucked up you were by either reading a text or listening to a ridiculously stupid song that you wrote at 1 o'clock in the morning the night before.
Oh, sorry, were you saying something? I have my earplugs in because that terrible song.
good one.
Great,
man.
Right?
Yeah, good bit. Dead air, always good.
Dead air is always good, especially when it's not Skype for once. I think planned dead air is a good plan, right?
Yeah, definitely the audience appreciated it.
I think so. So start to finish, how long did that song take you?
Well,
I was actually pretty impressed because there was harmonies and everything. In the past, you've always just done like the one mic guitar singing all at once.
Yeah, I had the one Audible ad. I mean, it didn't take nearly as long as like the 60-second Audible ads that I do that have like tons of layers and different sounds and stuff. But that 30-second clip took me about an hour to do.
Well, I think if anything, the nation of Senegal will hear your plea, and if we're lucky, we can get some of those sweet bots to retweet us, and hey, That counts for something, right?
All I want for Christmas
Is a retweet from a Senegalian rapscallion bot.
Dakar.
I kind of wish just like what we probably should have done this whole season is words like clavier and any of the other weird pretentious title words we didn't know from the season is just always have a pronunciation bot. Because they're pretty reliably funny. That one is, I think that one's funny simply because of how soft.
Mind.
Yeah, but that one's just so weird because of how soft spoken it is. Usually bots are a little more assertive.
Dakar.
It just kills me every time. It's so funny.
Anyway, now on to the best part of all of Westworld. William, Dolores, and Logan.
Okay, you have to admit, though, this was the one time where this plot actually was pretty damn interesting, right?
I will say this was the most interesting this plot has been. By far.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how interesting was this plot to you this episode?
A 7 for most of it. And then the end of it, which I'm actually have some questions for you on, like a 10.
A 10?
Yeah. Once she got to the church and all that, yeah. 10.
That is pretty good, man. You know what I have to say about that?
So quiet. Anyway, so they're at the military camp. It's Dolores, Logan, and William. Logan has them all tied up because we saw him march into town as the bad guy last time.
Still wearing the pin of the Hand of the King.
Yes, still having that weird Game of Thrones reference, which, like I said, crossover eventually. And so William is basically trying to explain that Dolores is different than others. And Logan's like, look, friends, man, like you helped bail this park out or your father did or whatever. Can't we just get her out of here? And Logan's like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Can we please have a conversation about what a fucking asshole William is? I mean, this episode, obviously you're made to think like, oh my God, Logan, what a sadistic douchebag. But seriously, like, William is brought here by his brother-in-law who spends, tens of thousands, at least $40,000 a day, probably more for some prime package or something, to bring him on this awesome little bonding adventure. And William is the ultimate stick in the mud the whole time. The only reason
becomes villain, yeah.
The only reason that Logan even came along with him is because William basically strong arms him into it. He's like, well, come or not, I'm going either way. So like he forces him into it. Every step of the way is a huge fucking wet blanket, and we're supposed to sit here and be like and feel sorry for William in this moment, or even Dolores. I mean, she is a bot, and I just feel honestly like Logan really is in the right. I don't know if you feel that way, but it's frustrating a little bit to watch how I at the very least, I like that Logan in this episode really explained himself of like, this is, I don't know. It's just, it's very frustrating.
Feel anywhere near as strongly as you do, especially because every other episode we've discussed, neither of us have really liked Logan, but none of us have we haven't liked William either just because he's boring. At the same time, he has gone, what annoys me is just he's gone to such an extreme of like, not wanting to be in the game, to really wanting to be into the game, to basically falling madly in love with Dolores and wanting to take her out. I will say what I think Logan's in the right for is like not his behavior, like in just his general douchiness, but just the fact that like, look, I took you here on a vacation basically as a bachelor party, and now you've fallen in love and you're supposed to get married, like that stuff
to my sister.
Yeah, to my sister. I was
saying it.
Yeah,
and he shows the picture, which was actually another cool reveal, considering that is the exact picture that Peter Abernathy unearths all those years later.
So he unearths that. So now we know this has to be much earlier than the current day stuff that set off the series.
Well, yeah, we've already been talking here on the podcast, and I think most people agree that this is probably 30 years earlier.
Yeah, which there's a part later that kind of confused me on that, but we'll discuss in a bit.
Sure,
but
okay.
Anyway, like one of my favorite parts in this scene, though, is Dolores, as she's becoming sentient, just saying, why would I want to get out of here? Like,
you guys are all clamoring to get in here.
Yeah, clamoring to get in. It's almost the opposite of my favorite line from Watchmen, which made it into the movie, which is when Rorschach finally gets into prison.
Yes.
And like all
the way he bellows it, that guy does a great job.
Oh yeah, Jackie Earle Haley. When all these, basically all the prisoners are just like, Rorschach's gonna get what's coming to him. Now he's stuck in here with us. And he's like, no, you're stuck in here with me. And you're just like, oh god, they're gonna get their asses beat. But kind of like that similar, like eerie sentiment. But I really liked like just the delivery of that.
The city was dark and smelly like rat's guts.
Yeah.
I just love all his like weird exposition, or just like the lines that he's giving. He's so poetic.
Very much so.
Definitely Edgar Allan Mothman over there.
Oh man. So William and Dolores are basically held captive. He goes over the stuff about his sister. He shows that photo, and Dolores essentially breaks free and breaks free.
Yeah, he stabs her really violently in the stomach, rips upwards a little bit, and then puts the knife down, puts his hands in there, and exposes all these
like pistons.
Yes, which definitely shows you that this is earlier, because we've been told that the machines used to be mechanical and graceful and beautiful, and now they're just this weird synthetic sort of thing. And so we definitely see, and especially after William butchers the shit out of all the rest of them, that this is definitely in an earlier timeline, without a doubt. If that wasn't already all
clear.
but confirmed, it is very clear now.
Well, so all the robots were that way, but aren't the original hosts? Is the idea that Teddy and Dolores and Maeve in modern day still are built that way, or were they redone?
No, so much of them have been replaced, is what they say, is what Ford says very early on.
Only because I know, like, the Gen 1 robots in the cabin where his father is, and like the son version of him, those are all just that way, but that's just because they're not part of the park then. So
yeah, probably same with like the piano player in cold storage. I don't mean the like Old Bill, I think is his name, the dude that he's always slamming shots with.
Sure. So she slices him and runs away, which is also surprising that she's able to actually cut him, because there's supposed to be safeguards from it, and none of them can shoot at all.
Yeah, and it just kind of made me think, because if William is the Man in Black or whatever, we don't even have to touch that for what I'm about to say, but like Maeve, we saw last episode, slices the Man in Black across the face when he's going to kill her and her daughter at like the prairie home. So it's definitely, I guess the code on these things breaks relatively often enough to where guests can get their faces sliced open if they get sadistic enough with them.
But didn't Man in Black have his throat cut, but it just didn't do anything? Like he...
Yeah. I mean, not that it didn't kill him, obviously, but I mean, it definitely looked like she drew blood when she slit his throat. It just didn't cut deep enough to actually hit like an artery or something like that. Of course, she had definitely refined her skills when she used them on Sylvester last episode.
Yeah. That always threw me off too, because I thought it was just she went for it and he was amazed that the contact was made, but it still didn't hurt. But I guess that kind of makes sense. So anyway, she's now running away. They kind of bond and hug and make up, and William's playing like, you were right, I was kind of getting too into it, we're cool, bro. But then he wakes up the next day and, he has basically butchered every single robot and is like, look, you're gonna help me do this.
Yeah, and it was a pretty sweet little scene too, just because like Logan wakes up and obviously tied one on pretty severely the night before, and he gets up and just like kind of coughing the dust out of his lungs and walks around, and it's just mechanical body parts and blood, and it's just a fucking a butcher's scene, and William's sitting there facing the other way like a fucking badass. I mean, I was just waiting for an explosion so he could walk away without looking at this point. And he turns around and just basically tells Logan, like, who's the fucking boss now? And by the way, don't call me Billy.
Yeah, he's definitely a badass now. Don't call me
Mothman.
So she's now running through the field, and she sees, what's the place called?
Escatone, but before then even, she hears,
remember. So Escatone, that's where the church is, right?
yes, it is. It's the city buried under the sand.
So this is the church in modern day that all you see is the steeple, right?
Yes, here's the church, here's the steeple. Open up the doors and see all the robots.
So then explain this. How does she enter that church, what seems like tons and tons of years ago? It's not buried under the sand. And then modern Man in Black walks in.
Because it was unearthed during the excavation that Ford's doing for his new plot.
Okay, so she's wearing the same outfit as she was 30 years ago and just finds her way. That's what was not making sense to me. She's running away from them 30 years ago, finds her way in the church, turns around, and Man in Black is there now 30 years later?
Yeah, basically that's exactly what happened. It's not like she was down there that whole time. I mean, she made her way there again in modern times, comes up and has now had this realization that she killed Arnold, which, by the way, can I just say, I called that many episodes ago when there was very little basis for it. Mm-hmm. But I at least brought up like some decent points, and can I at least get a shred of credit for that? I mean, we have been cutting edge on this show. I mean, you got John Ralphio, you've got BernArnold, and now we've got her having killed Arnold, which I called the very first time we saw her having reveries at this church.
There we go. Well, kudos to you. So
that's the nicest compliment I feel like you've ever given me.
That might be true, actually.
I'm taking this. Yeah, it definitely is. I'm taking. Because my usual compliment that I get from you is something about putting in earbuds because you didn't want to listen to my shitty song.
So, how did she make her way back to? Have we seen it yet? Because that's the part that was confusing me. Have we seen Dolores in modern day whatsoever? That, you know what I mean? Like, what are the Dolores scenes that are modern day, and have we been seeing a parallel plot that drives her back to this church?
No, we haven't. So she just like wandered her way there or something. Like maybe she slept walked there. I mean, it's not explained, but do you really want like another, because they couldn't have that happening because they're not trying to let us know in like for a long time about the multiple timelines.
Sure.
Maybe they're, talking, maybe they're intimating it, but they're not outright saying it. So they can't have another plot line going that brings her here. So it's just, basically Arnold's voice kind of brought her here again. Or maybe, honestly, maybe it ties back into what I was saying about, and what you agreed with, that Ford is bringing this whole narrative together. Like he is pulling the strings here. So maybe he brought her back here as part of the new narrative. Maybe.
Can I read you my favorite fan theory about what's going on and what's going to be revealed in the finale?
Let's hear it.
This is from The Verge. They've had a bunch of different like theories and stuff. But Westworld is really just a milk ad. So follow me on this. Most people who enter Westworld see Dolores drop her can, and as we know, she's been dropping the same brand of condensed milk for 35 years. Yes. The name of the starting town in Westworld is Sweetwater. Sounds kind of like a condensed milk product to me.
Okay.
Host and Westworld are obsessed with milk. Dolores' dad gets killed over and over again because his family only drinks milk, and it makes the bandits angry. The bandits hate milk. The enemy of my enemy makes milk my friend.
Well, wait. They don't hate milk. The dude's fucking drinking it all over the place. It's the same dude that was drinking it inside of that tavern and had the milk pouring out of the holes in his body.
Yeah, but like that's his like fuck you to these milk drinking yuppies.
Either way, that doesn't impact what you're saying so far for me. So keep going.
Black hats are bad. White hats are good. Guess what color milk is? Anthony Hopkins looks like a guy who runs a milk company. All of the hosts are born in a giant vat of milk. The entire opening sequence of Westworld just looks like things being made out of milk.
Okay, I like that one.
Then I forgot what this link was, but there's a you're a grown boy, drink milk, which is the milk killer. And then here's my favorite one. What's an upside down W? It's an M for Milk World.
That is the stupidest thing I've read in my entire life, but I loved it.
It made me laugh so hard because above it are nothing but, normal, serious theories. And then, like, one of the people's like, all right, well, let me get to my real theory, which I was kind of shy about saying because people think I'm crazy. But what if it's a milkhead? So anyway, I just had to share. That got me a good chuckle before going on air tonight.
Yeah, that is definitely funny. So yes, we see her. She's walking into Escatone. She sees the church, and the bells are ringing. But for whom does the bell toll? Mm-hmm. And that's when she hears "Remember." And so she walks into the church, and she sees Tallulah Riley is definitely in there. Armistice is in there. Did you see any other hosts in there?
There's a few, but none that I could pinpoint. Like, there's a few that I was like, I recognize that actor or actress, but I don't know what episode it's from. Most of them look fairly familiar, but those are the two that I was like, I've seen as characters throughout.
Oh, okay, yeah. So this, when she goes down through the confessional, this is where we start to see the multiple timelines thing, because we see her walking through back in olden times, and then we see her walking through when there's a bunch of dead boob tube bodies everywhere. And so obviously that's like the 30 years ago, and then the current. But another great shot of young Ford here. It just, it looks really good. And especially this one moving, like that just seems like it would be quite a challenge to make it look that good. It's pretty seamless.
Yeah, no, they do a really good job of showing that. And this is also, it was in Ryan's theory where he was talking about Dolores wearing, the blue outfit and talking to Bernard instead of being naked like everyone else, and it being in a room that looks different. And I was, we were talking about, well, how does he get them there? And so the moment she goes in confessional and starts going down, we're like, oh, there it is.
Yep. Yeah, that was really cool. Because, I mean, before we had been thinking that this was the same basement from Ford's house, which I don't think that it is. No. I mean, obviously not. We've seen two different entryways, so that just wouldn't add up. So that was pretty cool, I thought, first off. But she sits down, and this is happening at the same time as the Bernard and Ford things going on, as they're going back into Bernard's memory. But this is where we really see the true Arnold reveal. Arnold BernArnold is because he sits down across from her, and it is Arnold, which is Bernard, or at the very least looks like Bernard, because Bernard is just an avatar of him or whatever. But so that was awesome. And then that's when he lets loose the line about, I can't help you because I'm dead. I'm just a memory. And why is that?
Because I killed you.
Bum, bum, bum.
And I will say this whole episode, I was kind of on the edge of my seat because of this BernArnold stuff, just because we've talked about it and we were kind of waiting for it to happen. And I think it was last episode I said I'd probably be disappointed if it happened at this point, but the way they revealed it, and then the fact that Ford makes it sound like this is like the 10th time you've found out you're Arnold, and like we just keep dealing with this shit every few years. It started
that reminded me of The Matrix a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It really, to me, was just incredibly well executed. And the moment she was going down there, I was like, this is where we're gonna see for sure all this stuff has been true all along. And so, just seeing Bernard basically, that's just such a cool reveal later, because Bernard, you think, is really having a breakthrough. He's really realizing what's going on. He's been having to cover up stuff for Ford, but he's also kind of becoming sentient and understanding what's happening. And you're like, man, he's got some balls. He's gonna put Ford at gunpoint and have Clementine, whose source code or prime directives have been overridden by the lobotomy. Like, he's actually got Ford for once. For once, Ford isn't a god. And you're like, what the fuck's gonna happen? Like, I don't know. I was on the edge of my seat for most of this scene.
Me too, honestly, because like I said, it was playing back and forth with the Bernard and Ford stuff as Dolores is going through there. And so you're getting this tandem reveal, and man, it was just really good. Like, I I all but cheered the first time that I watched it. I was so hyped up. I instantly like wanted to go onto Reddit and like, but already everybody's, you know, putting in like confirmed. And it's just like, so it was just a great reveal. If for something that we'd already heavily suspected, it still felt very fresh in its delivery. But just to wrap up the scene, she goes back upstairs. She hears somebody about to walk in the church. It opens up. We see the old gunslinger. What's not Shadow? What's the word I'm looking for?
What? The gunslinger Man in Black?
Yes, but what is it when you see somebody but they're backlit so it just looks black?
Oh, silhouette.
Silhouette, thank you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you see the gunslinger silhouette, and then she's like not sure who it is at first. Does she say William? She looks like she is not. She looks like she's surprised to see whoever it is, but then he steps in, and then like there's
Hello,
just terror.
Dolores.
Yeah, terror on her face, and hello, Dolores.
Yeah, so we will see what comes to fruition there. If it's really, you know, William grown up, or Logan grown up, or whatever the hell transpires.
Yeah,
that I'm excited to see. Yeah,
yeah, me too. So that was the best Dolores and William and Logan plotline for me so far, and it was just awesome.
Kind of say at this point, Lee Sizemore still just has no reason to be in the show at all.
And did not make an appearance in this episode, which I think heavily influenced this being like my new favorite episode.
Definitely. Yeah, that's really my biggest complaint of the season is like he was positioned early on, so you just thought something was going to come of it, and it's like he really has just been filler with episodes of the show that have so much goddamn information packed into it. I mean, we've talked like an hour and 20 about an episode because so much happens. He's one of those things that definitely could have been cut out. Like that, and no, I'm waiting for something to happen that you're like, that's what they were building to.
Well, something has to happen next episode based off of last episode when he and Hale are down in cold storage and they see Peter Abernathy, and she wants him to give him a story and have him basically get out of the park. So, I mean, something's got to happen with him or with Lee Sizemore next episode.
Yeah, I would imagine so, but I don't know. They could have just had Stubbs do that, right?
I mean, I'm fully on board. I think I'm just saying something's going to happen with him next episode, which is almost a bummer. I almost would have rather just have it get out, whatever it's going to be, have it get out of the way this episode. So in the finale, we don't have to waste a fucking second on him. Although 90 minutes next week, I don't know if you were aware of that.
I was not. That's pretty exciting.
Oh yeah, the bicameral mind. But okay, let's get into Bernard and Ford, the last and certainly, in my opinion, most significant part of this episode. So it starts off where Bernard walks into Ford's office, and this is based off of his interaction with Maeve earlier, where she tells him, like, go find out some information, and darling, don't get half the information, because getting half the information instead of the whole thing is kind of like
getting half of a fuck.
Yeah, exactly. And that's no good for anybody, darling. I'm pretty sure I butchered that line.
Yeah, it was, it's like I don't know. Yeah, I can't quite remember it. It was just that I know Julia asked, wait, what's half a fuck mean? To which point I was like, I'm going to share that in the podcast because that means I'm a great lover.
Oh my God.
So I was waiting to bring that up. If you weren't going to bring up that line, I was,
Just the tip. Okay, so
on the back. Anyway.
Oh my God, this guy is gonna go jerk uncontrollably after the podcast again. Okay, so right after he walks into Ford's office, it cuts to him. Actually, Ford walking through cold storage where Bernard is waiting for him, and Bernard basically, first off, gives a little interesting tidbit here that all the stiffs in there, all the White Walkers, they are not dead. They are just hobbled. Yes. So that is cool because we've already talked about possibly Maeve's undead army down there. And so that is definitely possible. And so Bernard's like, I looked at my code and you know what? the most elegant parts of it were definitely not built by you. They were built by Arnold. I want you to give me the full history, which Ford has no incentive to do until Bernard pulls out a gun, which Ford kind of smirks about. And then all of a sudden, Clementine walks in. Bernard gives it to her, gives the gun to her and says they didn't reset her prime directives when they lobotomized her. So now Ford is forced to indulge Bernard.
Yeah, so he, kind of goes through a series of flashbacks. He sees his son, and he's reading him the, Alice in Wonderland scene in the hospital, and he's talking to his wife, which it kind of has some static, and you see Ford for a minute, so it's automatically a transplanted memory, and then he's in bed with Teresa. It's just kind of trippy, and then Teresa completely freezes. It's kind of interesting how he's seeing these flashbacks, and then all of a sudden he's just choking Elsie.
Yeah, and it's all coming pretty rapid fire, which I'm pretty sure ties into Ford having said something about him possibly losing himself in it. Or actually, that's what Bernard says, and Ford's like, no, you just might see something you don't want to see.
Mm-hmm. And, he asks about what happened to Elsie, which, he kind of is like, well, look, we've had to make difficult decisions, but he also
No, do the accent.
We've had to make some difficult decisions. But he's also not saying, like, she's dead, we've killed her. I'm actually curious to see if she's really dead or been... we talked about this. I wonder if she will be a host next episode.
Or next season.
Or something like that. But now he's dreaming about his son's death, and he's actually, like, being able to... control.
No, it's not quite there yet, because it does the quick thing about his son's death, but then it goes to Maeve's dead body, which we saw the scene last episode where it was in the past after her daughter had been killed by the man in black, and she had too, where she jabs the thing. Yeah, she jabs it in her neck, and Bernard is like, how could you, would she, but dip, and he just like totally starts glitching, and Ford is like, it is best not to worry yourself with things like this, Bernard.
Yeah, and he kind of talks about, how these hosts, like, he's just having a hard time understanding what's going on. He's like, look, we spent 3 years refining the park and the host, which, you basically are one, before guests were allowed in. And after a year, they even passed the Turing test. Like, what Arnold really wanted was consciousness. But you can basically see how convoluted and murky that can be. And how
it's a pestilence.
Yeah, he calls it a pestilence. He's like, you've basically been cursed to make, human mistakes to an extent.
Yeah, and Bernard, rightfully so, is like, only a monster would force the memory of a child's death on somebody. And then immediately he realizes, like,
Fuck.
this is one of my cornerstones. So, like, this is basically what his whole personality is sculpted around this moment. So he wants to go back to his first memory. He gets...
Well, and Ford even says, Arnold always thought trauma was the way to go. He kind of makes the reference that, like, he thought trauma was the most effective. So it's just kind of ironic that he's kind of a clone of Arnold, and Arnold always thought that trauma was the best way to, use a cornerstone memory.
Yeah. So he gets sent back, and this is the part where his son's dying again. He says, stop. All the nurses and doctors freeze. He basically dismisses them. He has this moment with his son, and I saw somebody on Reddit put, this is his Father of the Year moment right here, because he holds his son, and he says, you're a lie, Charlie. You're a lie. Not even, like, just like, what a rude thing to say to, yeah, I get it. Like, he's not actually there. But it's funny that we're supposed to go along with William, who is all wanting to treat the robot so nice. But in this moment, we're supposed to be like, okay, good. Bernard's letting this little thing go with it. Because, I mean, the memory of Charlie isn't any less real, really, than Dolores is in terms of actual humanity and sentience. So it's just funny that we're supposed to set that aside, and then when he's calling his son a lie, like, it's just like, oh yeah, well, that's good, get over it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the difference is that it's a memory, and, like, it's like he's fast going back to his memories and realizing the control he could have, because he's obviously not really there.
I mean, yeah, it's a memory, but we all know that time is a flat circle.
Yeah, I guess so. So, this is all fairly interesting, but I thought they did a really good job when he opens his eyes and there's a younger version of Ford, but not that young, like not the super young one we saw earlier. And at first I was like, is he younger? I can't quite tell, but once you kind of see it, it's actually a pretty good job.
Oh, a really good job. And let me just you hold on for a second so I can clue the viewers into something here. Okay. Here is verbatim what Mothman wrote in the notes right here. It says, Bernard stands up and we see him nakies from the side, looking like a goddamn Adonis. What the fuck were you thinking when you wrote that?
I think everyone that's a longtime fan of this show understands I don't write a goddamn note. Because they've heard me mispronounce stuff and just say wrong things because I read a typo of yours.
You know what I should start doing?
Or you do something weird like nakies, so that I just like say it, and it sounds so unnatural. I just laugh to myself.
I've heard you say peeps so many times because when I'm writing, I mean, I never say peeps out loud, but I just have like these little, like I'm a court reporter, like shorthand type stuff.
Sure.
And I always know when you're going straight off my notes because you'll say something like nakies or peeps or like or dingleberry or something like that.
Or like you had put earlier, Boob Tube Buddies.
I had literally wrote Boob Tube Buddies. As I'm like scurrying to keep up with the show, I still write in stupid shit like that.
Oh, it's just so funny. Which is why I try to at least, if it's not a night like tonight where I immediately get off work and then come home and eat and do 2 podcasts, I try to at least breeze through the notes first so I could rewrite stuff or add a note so I don't sound like a goddamn doofus.
Okay, so anyway, back to the goddamn naked Adonis. Ford is kind of teaching him how to act, and so like he's like, oh, too perfunctory. He used to clean his glasses as a moment to collect himself. And that's when
you're like, oh fuck, it's Arnold.
Yeah, and Ford's like, I haven't decided what to call you. It wouldn't be right to use his name. How about BernArnold? And it's like, dude, seriously, you just came up with that on the spot. Like, don't pretend like you hadn't been thinking about that.
Yeah, I would imagine so too. And then he finally shows the picture where he was holding the picture a few scenes earlier in flashbacks and stuff, and you're like, show the goddamn picture, and this time don't have the missing space on the right side. Yeah,
exactly. That was a great reveal, and so that's happening again in conjunction with the Dolores one. So you basically get like the 2-part reveal right there.
Yeah, and just
God,
my God,
but literally because he's talking to Ford,
pretty much. And then just I love the line from Ford, like, what do you think came out to the world? We have murdered everything in this world that threatened our privacy. We destroyed and subjugated our world and then created this beautiful place. He's just so villainous and sinister, like each and every episode.
He's so good. And at this point, Bernard tells Clementine to pull the trigger, and Ford basically does like a... the piano doesn't murder the player if it doesn't like the music.
Yeah, and so she lowers the gun, and Bernard realizes, like you talked about earlier.
Yes, yeah, he got it in the back door.
Yeah, he went down the old Hershey Highway, and
now, dude,
and now avoided this. So, and then Ford,
you sound like somebody well acquainted with the Hershey highways, talking about Adonises and nakies.
No comment. So, then basically Ford has Bernard shoot himself in the head.
Yeah, which was a great reveal, and I know you want to talk about this, so let's get into it. As he's walking out and we see all the flaccid penises, there was one flaccid penis on the right, the first robot on the right when he walks out, and it was literally the biggest wiener I've seen in my entire life. I'm telling you, this thing was 2 feet long if it was an inch. Like, you could jump rope with this fucking thing.
I honestly have no idea what you're talking about.
God, dude, you are so fucking in the closet. This is embarrassing.
I really don't. I remember seeing some like insanely saggy boobs.
You didn't notice Ford trip on it when he walked past?
No. I somehow missed that. What was the...
that would be so funny.
He just like casually stumbled.
Just eats shit.
No, not even that. Just like a casual stumble, and then moves on and says his lines, like not so over the top. But why did he have Bernard shoot himself? Doesn't he then have to make him again? Or is he just done with Bernard?
I doubt that he's done with Bernard. Although, I mean, it's possible, but I'm sure that he's probably going to come back. I mean, maybe he feels like he needs to just scrap him and restart, or maybe
like completely new hard drive.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, because I mean, he does. That was the biggest. So I told you, like, I might have been disappointed if they had this reveal. I think one of the things that made it click for me is the fact that it was a big reveal for the audience, but for Ford, it was like, we've done this so many times before. And it's just inevitably they get to a point of sentience and they get clever and they have to deal with all this shit. But yeah, the only reason I could think he had him shoot himself was just to, I don't know, maybe he's going to have an actual suicide happen and this will be the end of Bernard. And he'll put him on a slab and talk to the board members. Or maybe he's just going to like rebuild his head and his brain and all that good stuff.
Yeah, to me, that seems more likely, but I mean, who knows? So overall, where did this episode sit amongst the pantheon of Westworld episodes so far?
The first one and this one are by far my favorites. 10
yes,
out of 10.
Totally agree. 100%. These are the two 10 out of 10 episodes. Okay, we're running just a little bit long, so I'm just going to kind of breeze through the little wrap-up stuff. Again, thank you guys so much for listening. It has been such a pleasure doing this Westworld podcast, and we are really looking forward to the Bicameral Mind, the season finale next week. In the meantime, check out our other podcasts that Mothman listed earlier, and then check us out on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, and Reddit, and also at our website at boobtubebuddies.com. And Mothman, unless you have any other little things, you want to mention the holiday gift guide real quick before you tie a bow on the bitch?
I was just going to mention it, man.
I'm in your head, motherfucker.
All right. Yeah, so on our website, boobtubebuddies.com, we have a page for 2016 holiday gift guide where we just have some Blu-rays and things, but I'm going to continue to add to it this week. So as you are trying to find gifts for yourself or loved ones or whatnot, there should be some cool things. And it's basically stuff that's at a good price on Amazon anyway, and by buying it at that price and spending no money additionally, we get a cut simply because you bought it through our link. So if you like the show, I understand, not just trying to PayPal us $10 for a free podcast, but hey, send us some money for free by buying shit on Amazon.
Damn, nice job, Billy Mays.
Hey, I try. Anyway, at this point, I need to talk about OxyClean too, right? Okay. Or ShamWow. Sorry. Okay. Anyway, we'll see you next time, little buddies.